Here's our final example of a two-sample t-test. This one's actually a little simpler than the previous one because instead of giving you raw data, you're just being given statistics. So let's see how this goes. The resting pulse rates for a random sample of 26 smokers had a mean of 80 beats per minute, standard deviation of 5. Among 32 randomly chosen non-smokers, the mean and standard deviation were 74 and 6 beats per minute. Both sets of data were roughly symmetric and had no outliers. Is there evidence of a difference in the mean pulse rates between smokers and non-smokers? How big? All right, so let's see. I think I'll start off by saying let mu subscript s equal the average resting pulse for smokers. And of course, then I could say mu subscript ns equal the average resting pulse for non-smokers. Okay. And then I could say that the null hypothesis is mu s is equal to mu ns. They have the same pulses. And the alternative this time is mu s not equal to mu ns. And that's because it says, is there evidence of just a difference in the means? Okay. All right, so moving on to the checking of the conditions. Well, this one's really easy. It says the 26 smokers and the 32 non-smokers were randomly chosen. Okay. I can say that 26 is less than 10% of all smokers. I can also say that 32 is less than 10% of non-smokers. Now, I want you to notice that one of the sample sizes is less than 30, so that could be troublesome. However, they bothered to tell us that both sets of data were roughly symmetric with no outliers. So, since both were roughly symmetric with no outliers, the conditions for the two sample t-test are met. Okay, so they went kind of easy on us there. All right, now you were given all of the means and standard deviations you needed, so I'm just going to basically in the do phase just summarize what I was given. So for the smokers, they said that the average for the smokers was 80 with a standard deviation of 5. So X bar smokers was 80 beats per minute with a standard deviation of 5 beats per minute. And for the non-smokers, let's see, X bar for the non-smokers and S for the non-smokers. Let's scroll back up. We were given 74 and 6. 74 beats per minute and 6 beats per minute. So I'm just summarizing. So now all I really need to do is take X bar smoker minus X bar non-smoker. Well, I can see that that's a difference of 6. And I need to calculate the standard error of X bar smoker minus X bar non-smoker. That is the square root of the variance for the smokers divided by the sample size for the smokers plus the variance for the non-smokers, 6 squared, divided by the sample size of the non-smokers. I'm going to leave that to you. because you got to play the game. You got to play that game. Calculate that number because the calculator's not going to give it to you. So then, continuing to play the game, t is equal to the difference minus 0 over that standard error that I'm waiting for you to calculate. So the calculator is going to give me that number, but you got to play the game and pretend you did it yourself. All right, real quick, I'm going to switch to my camera, and we're going to go to the calculator. So this time, menu, statistics tests, two sample t-test. But this time you tell it you have statistics. And you say, okay. Now remember, the smokers were my group 1. So my smokers had a mean of, I have since forgotten. My smokers have a mean of what? My smokers are the ones with a mean of, sorry, my calculator is misbehaving, 80 and 5, 74 and 6. Okay. 80 and 5, 74 and 6. So I want to put that 80 there. I want to put the 5 standard deviation for the smokers, 74 and 6. Oops. I'm sorry. That should be the smoker sample size, so that's 26. And then the 74 for the non-smokers, the, what was that standard deviation there? 6. And then the sample size was 32 for them, right? And then just remember, make sure that your alternative is right. It is and no, and say, okay. All right, so now if I scroll up, it gives me t equals 4.15, and it gives me the p-value is 0.0001. Okay, 4.15. All right, so if I go back to my notes here, but since this is also a two-sided alternative, I need to put -6 and label. My p-value was basically 0. Remember, it was 0.0001. So now to finish off this problem, I think you know, since the p-value is less than the alpha level, I reject the null hypothesis. There is evidence that brand D has higher saturated fat than oh, I'm so sorry, I'm on the wrong problem. This is not saturated fat. There is evidence that smokers' pulses differ from non-smokers. And in a little bit, I will use this problem as my first example of a two-sample t confidence interval.